Chapter 1. The quiet verdict. Judge Edwin Hale was found dead in his study, seated as though still weighing a case. No sign of struggle, no weapon left behind, no message to guide the living. The house stood in order, too orderly, like truth pressed flat under weight. Servants whispered, but nothing rose to meaning on Riddle Street. Silence is never empty, it is only waiting. The case reached West 35th Street at 9:20 on a Tuesday morning, which was discourteous. Wolf dislikes crime before lunch. He tolerates murder after dinner if the fee is proper. But before lunch it competes with orchids, and orchids have the advantage of being innocent. I was in the office sorting bills into 3 piles: urgent, unpleasant, and impossible. The impossible pile was winning. Wolf was behind his desk with his eyes closed, not asleep, not awake in any ordinary sense, but engaged in that private mental commerce by which he convinces himself that the world can continue without his participation until 11 o'clock. The phone rang. He answered. Nero Wolf's office, Archie Goodwin speaking. A woman said, "Is Mr. Wolf available?" Number. There was a pause. This is important. They all are until examined. My name is Rachel Hale. Judge Edwin Hale was my father. He was found dead this morning. That moved it up a pile. Where? In his study, at our house on Riddle Street. Riddle Street again. It is not a street really, but a long argument between old houses and new money. The houses are large, the hedges are clipped, and the people behind them have discovered that privacy is expensive, but murder still finds the doorbell. I covered the mouthpiece and looked at Wolf. Judge Edwin Hale, dead in his study, daughter calling Riddle Street. One eye opened. Police? I asked her. Yes, she said, they are here. But my father left instructions. If he died suddenly, I was to call Nero Wolf. That opened the other eye. I relayed it. Wolf made a sound which, translated freely, meant that dead men had an exaggerated faith in his willingness to be disturbed. He held out his hand. I gave him the receiver. This is Nero Wolf. He listened. Number. I do not go to houses. He listened again. Madam, grief is not an argument. More listening. His lips tightened. That is different. Repeat the phrase. A pause. Thank you, Mr. Goodwin will come. He handed me the phone. I said, I will, you will. Into the receiver, I said, Miss Hale, I'm coming. Don't let anyone tidy anything. Her voice was dry. That may be difficult. This house has been tidy for 40 years. Then let it have one honest morning. I hung up. Wolf had leaned back and was frowning at nothing. That means something has entered his mind, and he dislikes its manners. What phrase? I asked. Judge Hale told his daughter last night, if silence makes a verdict, call Nero Wolf. That sounds like a judge. It sounds like a man pleased with his own phrasing. I dislike it. Do you dislike him dead too? I dislike being recruited by corpses. What do I look for? Everything that has not happened. Specific as ever. He opened his eyes. A man found dead without sign of struggle, weapon, or message invites inquiry into absences. Absence is not emptiness, it is concealment. Riddle Street agrees. Riddle Street is irrelevant. That's what you said last time. And was correct. I got my hat and Archie. Yes. Do not let the police persuade you that order is evidence of innocence. Noted. I'll so learn who wished Judge Hale silent. That may include half the city. Begin with the house. The Hale house stood on the quieter end of Riddle Street, beyond the Wynn Place and opposite a row of elms that had been planted, when men still believed trees could civilize wealth. It was a square brick mansion with white trim, black shutters, and a front walk so clean it looked recently accused and acquitted. No ornament wasted itself. The house had judicial manners. A patrolman at the gate stopped me. I gave him my name. He gave me the look policemen keep for civilians who know too much and are still not arrested. Then Detective Rowan Pike came down the steps and saved us both time. Pike had been on the Wynn case, and I had formed the dangerous opinion that he had brains. He was lean, quiet, and wore his hat as if it was not responsible for anything. "Goodwin," he said, "Pike Riddle Street is getting repetitive. It has old houses. And old sins. That too." He led me inside. The hall smelled of wax, books, and cold coffee. Everything was in place. Umbrellas standing like obedient spears, gloves in a tray, pictures square, rug-centered doors shut exactly as if the house had practiced posture. "Who found him?" "Housekeeper, Mrs. Arlen, at 7:10. "Time of death?" "Doctor says between 11 last night and 1 this morning. Medical examiner will be firmer and less useful later. Cause, likely heart failure. But there are questions." Always liked questions. "Then you'll enjoy the study." We went down a hall lined with legal engravings, judges in wigs, courts with pillars, justice holding scales and pretending not to notice who paid for the frame. The study door was open, with a uniformed man posted outside. Judge Edwin Hale sat behind a broad mahogany desk, though the body had already been examined and not yet removed. He was 70 or so, spare upright, with silver hair combed back and a face that even death had not softened. His hands rested on the arms of the chair. His chin had dropped slightly. If someone had entered and asked for a ruling, he looked ready to give one and regret the wording. The room was large and orderly: bookcases, fireplace, 2 tall windows, locked, a side table with a decanter and 1 glass, untouched by dust and touched by somebody, a mantel clock, a green shaded desk lamp. On the blotter were 3 neat stacks of paper, a fountain pen capped and aligned, a silver letter opener, and a small brass scale paperweight. No blood, no overturned chair, no shattered glass, no drama. Murder hates being dull, but sometimes it tries. "Anything missing?" I asked. "Not according to the family." "That means nothing is missing that they admit knowing about." Pike nodded. "Correct." "Any poison?" "None obvious. No smell, no bottle, no residue in glass so far." "What did he drink?" "Water." "Maybe nothing. Glass is clean except for his prints and 1 smudge we're checking." I bent over the desk without touching. There was a sheet of paper, centered before him, blank, dramatic. "It was under his right hand," Pike said. "Blank on both sides. No impression. Being tested." I looked around. "The house is too neat." "Yes." "You noticed?" "Yes. I like it when you save me work." "No, you don't." He was right. Rachel Hale came in while I was still looking at the judge. She was 32 or thereabouts, dark-haired, composed, wearing a grey dress that did not ask for sympathy. She had her father's carriage and none of his stiffness. Her eyes had been red once that morning and had decided not to continue. "Mr. Goodwin." I bowed an inch. "Archie Goodwin. Mr. Wolfe sent me because he refuses to travel before, during, or after weather. There is no weather. He also refuses good weather." She glanced at her father and then back at me. "Will he take the case?" "If the case takes him, that sounds like him. Years ago, before I was old enough to be told why." Pike heard that and looked interested without moving. I said, "Your father instructed you to call Wolfe, if silence made a verdict." "Yes." "When did he say that?" "Last night, after dinner, we were in the library." He seemed troubled. "About what?" He wouldn't say. He only asked whether I knew where his sealed instructions were. "Do you?" "Yes, in my father's desk safe." I looked at Pike. "Desk safe?" Pike nodded. "Locked. We haven't opened it yet. Waiting for family counsel." "Where is family counsel?" "On his way," Rachel said. "Mr. Simon Thayer." "Who else was in the house last night?" She answered as if giving testimony. "My father, myself, my stepmother Elaine Hale, my cousin Mark Beale, my father's former clerk, Thomas Vane, Mrs. Arlen the housekeeper, Daniel the footman, and Sarah Vale, who had come to consult my father privately." "Sarah Vale?" Widow. Friend of my stepmother's. She was involved in a case my father tried years ago. What case? Rachel hesitated. The Calverton appeal. That meant nothing to me then. I wrote it down, Pike said. She left at 10:40, seen leaving. By Daniel, Rachel said. He opened the front door. No one else came or went. Number back doors. Bolted at 10. By whom? Mrs. Arlen. I looked at Pike. Windows, locked from inside. Chimney. He almost smiled. Too narrow. Good. I hate athletic murderers, Rachel said. You sound as if this amuses you. No, Miss Hale. I sound as if I have learned that solemnity never helped a corpse. She accepted that, which raised her in my estimation. The stepmother entered next. Elaine Hale was in her late 40s and had the sort of beauty that knows the value of dim light. Her black dress was correct, her expression practiced, and her voice controlled. Rachel, Mr. Thayer has arrived. She turned to me. You are Mr. Wolfe's assistant, among other burdens. I hope you will not encourage unnecessary scandal. My husband was a public man. Public men are often private troubles. Her eyes cooled. Judge Hale died naturally, according to the doctor. Pike said. The doctor said likely. Elaine looked at him. You police delight in uncertainty. We live there, Pike said. Simon Thayer arrived behind her, a lawyer of 50, with a careful part in his hair and a careful poverty of expression. He shook hands with me and Pike, gave Rachel a fatherly nod, and looked at the judge as if calculating whether grief had legal weight. The desk's safe, Pike said. We need it opened. Thayer objected politely for 90 seconds, then yielded when Pike explained impolitely that a dead judge's sealed instructions could be evidence. Rachel produced a key from a chain at her neck. That key was given to you, I asked. Last night, by the judge. Yes, at the same time as the Wolfe remark. Yes. She opened the small safe inside the desk pedestal. It contained 3 sealed envelopes, a ledger bound in black cloth, a revolver in a velvet case, and a folded parchment tied with red cord. Pike removed them carefully. The first envelope was marked, to Rachel, the second, to Mr. Simon Thayer, the third, to Nero Wolfe. That last one improved my morning. Pike looked at me. You'll want this. The corpse insisted. Thayer frowned. This should be opened in proper presence. We're all improperly present, I said. Let's proceed. Pike opened the envelope addressed to Wolfe after Rachel nodded. Inside was one sheet in the judge's hand. Mr. Wolfe, if you read this, I have failed to do what a judge should have done when living. In my house there are 5 people who have been sentenced by my silence. One of them will act before I speak. Do not ask who entered. Ask who was already condemned. That was better than coffee. I read it twice and handed it to Pike. Rachel read it and went pale. Elaine Hale's face remained composed, but her right hand closed around the back of a chair. Thayer read it last and said, This is most irregular. Dead men often are, I said. Pike asked Rachel. 5 people? I don't know. Elaine said. Edwin was given to judicial phrasing. It may mean nothing. Her voice was steady, but her gaze had gone to the sealed envelopes too soon. Her voice was steady, but her gaze had gone to the sealed envelopes too soon. May, Pike said. The envelope to Rachel contained a personal note and a reference to the black ledger. She read it silently and handed it to Pike with permission. The relevant line was simple. The ledger contains names, dates, and payments connected with the Calverton appeal. I should have burned it or published it. I did neither. The envelope to Thayer contained instructions to deliver the ledger to the district attorney if Hale died before signing a statement scheduled for noon that day. Noon today? I asked. Thayer nodded, looking unhappy enough to be honest or dishonest under pressure. What statement? He rubbed his lips. Judge Hale had asked me to prepare a sworn declaration concerning misconduct in an old case, the Calverton appeal. Yes, Elaine Hale said sharply. Simon. It was not grief in her tone, it was warning. Thayer looked at her. The police will know in an hour. Pike picked up the ledger. Then we begin now. The ledger had names. Not full explanations, but enough. Calverton, Miles. Convicted embezzler, appeal denied 12 years earlier. Later suicide in prison. Payments marked to intermediaries, initials, dates, one page torn out near the back. Rachel sat down. "My father took money," she whispered. Thea said. "Not necessarily." Wolf would have said P.S.U.E. I said. "Money moved. Judges don't keep ledgers for innocent weather." Elaine turned on me. "You are offensive, frequently also right enough to continue." Pike studied the ledger. "These initials, ASTTVMB, Rachel whispered. "Thomas Vane, Mark Beale, Sarah Vale. And Saint?" I asked. Thea said nothing. "Simon Thayer," Pike said. The room went still. Thea's face had grayed. I handled certain communications. I did not know their purpose at first. "That leaves Elaine," I said. "No initials." Elaine's voice was cold. "I was not involved in my husband's cases." "Maybe, maybe not." Pike closed the ledger. "Nobody leaves." Elaine laughed once. "You cannot detain us all." "I can try," Pike said, "and I'm patient." By then I had enough to bring Wolf something worth chewing. I took the envelope addressed to him, with Pike's permission and Thayer's protest, and drove back to Manhattan. Wolf was at lunch when I arrived. The meal was shad roe with sauce, and therefore not to be interrupted by merely judicial murder. I waited in the office, smelling butter and injustice, until he came in at 1:15. He read the judge's note. Then he read my notes. Then he closed his eyes. "Well," I said, "Judge Hale was killed. That's direct. Not murdered merely because of what he knew. Murdered because he intended speech." 5 people sentenced by his silence. Yes. Calverton appeal, bribes or pressure. Ledger, torn page. The judge was to sign a statement at noon today. He died before then. Wolf opened his eyes. Who knew? Rachel, Thayer, maybe Elaine, maybe Vane, Beale, and Sarah Vale if they knew the old business was surfacing. And who was in the house? All of them except maybe Sarah Vale left at 10:40. The others remained. Epfui, a departure is not absence. Pike will like that. Mr. Pike may like what he pleases. Bring them here tomorrow. All involved. Rachel Hale, Elaine Hale, Simon Thayer, Thomas Vane, Mark Beale, Sarah Vale, the housekeeper if necessary, and Mr. Pike. Also Inspector Kramer, if he insists on being bulky. You're skipping the scene. I am not a tourist. It's an orderly room. You'd hate it. Order is often fraud, especially when maintained after death. I sat. Do you know who did it? Number. Do you know how? Number. Then why the gathering? I require voices. We're at the singing stage. Wolf's eyes narrowed. Archie. Yes. Find the torn page. Where, if I knew, I would not instruct you to find it. That kind of logic wears thin. It remains logic. I got up, and Archie. Yes, Judge Hale wrote. Do not ask who entered. Take that literally. No outsider. Perhaps, more importantly, the murderer's access was not the problem. What was? He tapped the judge's note. Condemnation. I left him there, frowning at the dead judge's words as if they had insulted his beer. By late afternoon, Riddle Street had changed. The Hale house no longer looked merely orderly. It looked arranged. The difference is small, but important. Order is what honest people hope for. Arrangement is what guilty people leave behind when they think they have done well. The servants still whispered. The family still composed itself. The police still asked questions about doors and windows, but Wolf had already given me the question that mattered. Who was already condemned? And somewhere in that silent house, among sealed envelopes, torn paper, old payments, and a judge who had waited 12 years too long to speak, the answer waited too. Chapter 2. The maid who looked down it was the housemaid, Lila Grant, who found what others missed, not in drawers or desks, but beneath the edge of a carpet near the study door. An envelope, thin and deliberate, hidden where only routine might reveal it. No guest would kneel there, no visitor would think to search below. Rowan Pike noted, the message was meant to be found, but not quickly. If there is one thing I have learned about large houses, it is this: the people who live in them look at eye level, and the people who clean them look down. That difference solves murders. I arrived at the Hale house just past 3, armed with Wolf's instructions, a notebook, and a general distrust of anything that appeared tidy. Pike met me in the front hall again, exactly where I expected him, which is the advantage of a man who stands where he is useful instead of where he is decorative. "You're back," he said. "Wolf likes the smell of old corruption. It improves his appetite." "Did he send anything useful?" "He sent me." Pike considered that. Marginal. "Keep talking like that and I'll solve this out of spite." That would be a novelty. We walked toward the study. The house had grown quieter, which was impressive because it had started at silence and improved on it. The servants moved carefully, as if sound itself might be evidence. "Anything new?" I asked. "Yes," Pike said. "The maid found something. I like maids. They don't like you. That's mutual respect." He pushed open the study door. The judge was gone now. The chair stood empty behind the desk, and the room felt wrong in the way rooms do when they have recently contained a body and are pretending they haven't. The air had been changed. The windows opened briefly and shut again, but the order remained, too exact, too preserved. A young woman stood near the door, hands clasped, posture uncertain but not weak. She had dark hair tied back, clear eyes, and the look of someone who had already decided to tell the truth and was waiting for permission. "Lila Grant," Pike said. "This is Archie Goodwin." She nodded. "Sir." "Miss Grant," I said. "You found something." "Yes, show me." She stepped carefully to the edge of the carpet near the study door, the threshold between hall and room. It was a heavy Persian piece, patterned enough to hide a stain, and expensive enough to discourage curiosity. "I was cleaning," she said. "Well, not cleaning, exactly. Mrs. Arlen said not to disturb anything, but the edge had curled slightly. It bothers me when carpets curl." "Me too," I said. "It's a moral failing." She almost smiled. "I lifted it," she continued. "Just a little, and there was something underneath." She knelt, not dramatically, just as one does when one has done it 100 times, and lifted the corner. There, tucked just beneath the edge, was a thin envelope. Pike had already seen it. I could tell by the way he didn't move. "You didn't touch it?" I asked. "No, sir. I called Mr. Pike." "Excellent, you may restore my faith in mankind. That would be pleasant," she said. I crouched. The envelope was cream, colored, unsealed, lying flat, as if it had been placed with care rather than dropped. No dust clung to it. That mattered. "It hasn't been here long," I said. "No," Pike agreed. "Anyone else kneel here today? Number yesterday? Unlikely. Then whoever put it here did so after the last cleaning." Lila nodded. "I cleaned this room. Yesterday afternoon. There was nothing there then." I looked at her. "You're sure?" "Yes, sir." "Then this envelope arrived after that?" "Last night," Pike said. "During or after the murder?" "Or just before," Pike said. I reached for my handkerchief and lifted the envelope carefully. It was light. Inside was a single folded sheet. "Shall we?" I asked. Pike nodded. I opened it. The paper was plain, the writing was neat, controlled, and deliberate. Not hurried, not emotional. The kind of handwriting that has learned discipline before it learned honesty. It read, "A verdict delayed is a verdict denied." The truth was buried once beneath law. It will not be buried again beneath silence. Look not at the judge, but at those he judged. No signature, no flourish, just intention. I read it aloud. Pike listened without interruption. Lila's eyes moved from me to him and back, as if trying to decide which of us was more likely to understand. "Well," I said. Pike took the paper and examined it. Placed, he said. Not dropped. Number, not meant to be found immediately. Number, not meant to be lost either. Number, I stood. Then it's a message. Yes. From the killer. Possibly. Or from the victim. Pike looked at me. Judge Hale liked instructions, I said. He left Wolf a note. He left his daughter instructions. Why not leave one more? Hidden where it would be found after his death. Why hide it? Pike asked. To control timing. He considered that. When a message is hidden, I said, it means the moment of discovery matters as much as the content. Pike nodded slowly. And this was not meant for the police. No, I said. Too indirect, too philosophical, that leaves. Wolf. Pike handed the paper back. Then you should take it. I intend to. Lila said quietly. Sir. Yes. Whoever put it there knew the house. I looked at her. Why? No one else would think to hide something under that edge, she said. It catches when the door opens. I fix it every morning. That makes you the only one who looks there regularly. Yes, so the message was meant for someone like you to find. She shook her head. Not me, someone who notices what I notice. That's a rare category. Yes, Pike said. Routine reveals what intention conceals. I looked at him. You've been reading Wolf. Number, then stop sounding like him. It's unsettling. We left the study and returned to the hall. Rachel Hale stood there, waiting. That was becoming a habit. You found something, she said. Yes. Can I see it? I hesitated. Pike nodded once. I handed her the paper. She read it. Her face did not change much, but her eyes sharpened. This is about the Calverton case, she said. Why? I asked. My father always said that case was his one. Compromise. That's a polite word. Yes, what did he mean? She handed the paper back. He never explained, but he kept files, locked, private. The ledger. Yes. Who else knew? Simon Thayer, possibly Thomas Vane. Not your stepmother. Rachel hesitated. Elaine knew something, not details. Mark Beale. He wouldn't understand details if they were engraved. Sarah Vale. Rachel's expression tightened slightly. She lost her husband to that case. Then she has motive. Yes. So does everyone, Pike said. Rachel looked at him. Not me. No, Pike said. Not you. I said, Miss Hale, who had access to this hallway last night. Everyone in the house. Servants, yes. Guests, yes. Anyone linger here? I don't know. Think, she did. Thomas Vane was here after dinner, she said. He stood near the study door for some time. Doing what? Waiting, I think. My father had dismissed him earlier. Dismissed how? Firmly. Why? I don't know. I wrote that down. Anyone else? I asked. Sarah Vale passed through on her way out. Time, about 10:30. Alone? Yes. Anyone near the carpet? Number that you saw? Yes, Pike said. The message was meant to be found, but not quickly. Rachel looked at him. Why? Because it's not evidence, Pike said. It's direction. Direction to what? I said. To people. Rachel closed her eyes briefly. The ones he judged, she said. Yes, I said. And they were all here last night. Yes. That's not coincidence, Pike said. No, I agreed. That's design. The house had not changed. It still stood in order, still held its silence, still pretended nothing had happened except a quiet death in a quiet room. But now it had spoken once, softly, deliberately. And like all good messages, it had not told us what happened. It had told us where to look. On Riddle Street, silence is never empty. It is arranged. Chapter 3. The unopened truth. The envelope bore no name, no seal, only the judge's steady handwriting. Inside, a single sheet blank to the careless eye. No ink, no mark, no confession laid bare. But Rowan did not frown. He only turned the page toward the light. "Some messages wait for the right angle," he said. "If you spend enough time around clever men, you learn that the obvious is rarely wrong. It is merely incomplete. The envelope Lila Grant had found rode back to West 35th Street in my inside pocket, behaving like an innocent object with a guilty purpose. By the time I reached Wolf's office, I had already read the message twice and understood it once, which is the usual ratio in our line of work. Wolf was where he ought to be, behind his desk, immovable, recently fed, and therefore almost approachable. A pot of coffee stood to one side, neglected. Wolf does not drink coffee. He tolerates its presence the way he tolerates me, as a necessary imperfection in an otherwise orderly universe. "Well," he said, "I brought you a message from the dead, a maid with better habits than the living, and a house that lies politely. Begin with the message." I handed him the envelope and the sheet. He read it once, then again. Then he placed it flat on the desk and looked at it without touching it, which meant it had begun to interest him. "No signature," he said. "None. No name on the envelope. Number handwriting. Matches Judge Hale's other notes. Then either it is his, or someone wishes us to think so. That's comforting. It is accurate." I leaned back. "There's more. There is always more. Proceed." I told him everything. Lila's discovery, the carpet edge, the timing, Pike's observation that the message was meant to be found but not quickly, and Rachel Hale's reaction. When I finished, Wolf nodded once. "This is not a confession," he said. "Number, it is not even an accusation. Not directly. It is instruction. Yes, to look at those he judged. That's the line." Wolf's eyes moved to the paper again. "Too simple," he murmured. "That bothers you?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because Judge Hale was not a simple man. That's what the House says. Then this message is incomplete." I shrugged. Maybe that's all he had time for. "No," Wolf said. "A man who has arranged sealed envelopes, a ledger, and a lawyer does not forget how to finish a sentence. So what's missing? Information. That's a bold guess." Wolf ignored that. "Archie," he said, "what do you see?" "A note telling us to look at suspects." "What do you not see?" "Ink blots, smudges, corrections. And it's too clean." "Yes. Pressure, hesitation, uneven lines. This hand is steady, too steady. So it wasn't written under stress. Or it was written before the stress, meaning before the murder." "Yes. I considered that, so he wrote this in advance, likely, and hid it." "Yes, for us, for someone. That's flattering. Do not indulge yourself." I sighed. "You ruin all my best moments." Wolf did not respond. He picked up the paper again and held it at a slight angle, watching the surface rather than the words. That was when I noticed something. "Wait," I said. "Yes, the light. What about it?" "The paper's not reacting." Wolf glanced at me. "Explain." "Normal paper shows slight texture under light. This is flatter." Wolf said nothing. I took the sheet and held it toward the lamp. At first, nothing changed. Then, just at the edge of the light, something faint appeared. Not ink, not quite. More like a suggestion pressed into the fibers. "Impression," I said. "Yes," Wolf said. I angled it further. There it was. Faint lines, words without ink, writing that had been pressed onto the page from something written above it. "Second sheet," I said. "He wrote on top of this." "Yes. And this caught the impression." "Yes." I looked at Wolf. "You're enjoying this?" "Moderately." I adjusted the angle again. The words began to resolve. Not clearly, not fully, but enough to tease. "Not all guilty. One who, before midnight. Trust. Then it faded again. Not enough, I said. No, Wolf agreed. But it's there. Yes. Can we bring it out? With proper technique? You mean science. Yes. That's cheating. It is efficiency. He rang for Fritz. When Fritz appeared, Wolf said, "Bring the magnifier and the oblique lamp." Fritz nodded and disappeared, as if summoned for a ritual rather than a request. I said, "You keep equipment for this?" "I keep equipment for everything." "That's reassuring." "No, Archie, it is necessary." Fritz returned with a small adjustable lamp and a magnifying lens. Wolf positioned the paper carefully, adjusted the light to a low angle, and leaned in. I watched. The faint impressions grew sharper, not readable in full, but enough to confirm their existence. Not all guilty. One who spoke. Before midnight. Trust. Wolf sat back. "Well," I asked. "It is what we expected." "Which is?" "An incomplete message." "That's helpful. It is precise." I stood. "So the judge left 2 messages, one visible, one hidden." "Yes. Why both?" "Because one alone would not suffice." "For what?" "For timing." I frowned. "Explain." "The visible message directs attention broadly. To those he judged, the hidden message narrows it, to one who spoke before midnight. That's more specific." "Yes, but still not enough." "Number. So we still don't know who." Number I sat again. "You're enjoying this more than moderately." "Do not be impertinent." "I'm always impertinent." "That is your chief qualification." I grinned. "Thank you." Wolf ignored me. "Archie," he said, "who spoke to Judge Hale last night?" "Rachel Elaine Thayer, Vane Beale, Sarah Vale." "In what order?" "I don't know yet." "Find out." "Why before midnight?" "Because after midnight, he was dead." "That's convenient." "Yes." I thought about the house. "The message under the carpet," I said. "Placed after cleaning, found by routine, not immediately." "Yes." "Meaning the killer didn't want it found too soon." "Correct." "Or the judge didn't." "Also possible." "So which is it?" Wolf's eyes narrowed slightly. "That," he said, "is the question." I stood. "Back to Riddle Street." "Yes." "More doors." "More people." "Same difference." As I reached the door, Wolf added, "Archie." "Yes. Do not forget. This is a judge." I hadn't. "He thinks in verdicts." I noticed. "And verdicts," Wolf said, "require evidence." I nodded. "And sometimes," he added, "evidence requires light." I left him there, staring at a blank sheet of paper that was no longer blank. Back on Riddle Street, the house waited again. The carpet lay flat. The study stood empty, the servants moved quietly. But now the silence had changed. Before it had been absence. Now it was concealment, and somewhere in that house, among those who had been judged and those who had spoken before midnight, the truth was no longer hidden. It was simply unopened. Chapter 4. The writing that wasn't heat revealed what honesty had concealed. Words rose faintly, written in a disappearing hand. "The debt walks freely." No name. No crime, just a phrase like a door half. Open the judge had spoken, but not loudly enough for fear. Rowan knew this was not a warning, but a selection. The trouble with invisible writing is that it flatters the person who finds it. A man holds a blank sheet to heat. Words appear, and for 10 seconds he feels like Providence's confidential clerk. Then the words turn out to be obscure, incomplete, or written by someone who enjoyed being clever, and Providence resigns. That afternoon, in Wolf's office, the blank sheet from under Judge Hale's carpet was no longer blank. It had been persuaded. Fritz had brought a spirit lamp, a shielded flame, and the careful manner of a man who would rather risk a detective than a table finish. Wolf, whose respect for paper is second, only to his respect for food, directed the operation from behind his desk. I did the heating because I am replaceable, and the desk is not. At first the paper merely warmed and curled faintly at one corner. Then, slowly like a thought rising after long burial, brownish letters appeared across the center. The debt walks freely. That was all. I read it aloud. The debt walks freely. Wolf's lips compressed. That's not exactly a confession, I said. Number nor a name. Number nor, if I may be frank, helpful. It is helpful, Wolf said. You dislike it because it is not obedient. I like clues that come with addresses. Then you should have become a mailman. I laid the sheet flat under a glass weight. The letters remained visible but faint, as if embarrassed by daylight. The earlier visible message had told us to look not at the judge, but at those he judged. Now this hidden phrase supplied a second direction. The debt walks freely. Debt, I said. Calverton. Probably. Walks freely. Someone guilty but not punished. Yes, that could be any of them. No, Wolf said. Good, explain and I'll cancel my irritation. The phrase is singular. The debt walks freely, one person. Not necessarily one person, one debt embodied. I sat. You're doing it again. Doing what? Making fog sound architectural. Wolf ignored me. Judge Hale did not write, "The guilty walk freely." He wrote, "The debt. A debt is owed. It may be financial, moral, legal, or personal. It may be carried by one who benefited from the judge's silence, or by one he failed to convict. Yes, or one he condemned wrongly. Yes, that's too many. Therefore we reduce." He leaned back, eyes half closed. "Who in the house last night was connected with the Calverton appeal?" he asked. I opened my notebook. Simon Thayer, family lawyer, and one of the initials in the ledger, Thomas Vane, former clerk, also initials. Mark Beale, cousin, initials. Sarah Vale, widow, initials. Elaine Hale, not initialed, but married to the judge, and probably not blind. Rachel Hale, daughter, not involved, but trusted with the key. And the servants. Mrs. Arlen, housekeeper, Daniel Footman, Lila Grant. Housemaid. No obvious connection. Obvious is a lazy word. I use it when tired. You are frequently tired before exertion. I turned a page. There's also the missing ledger page, torn out near the back. Yes, the hidden phrase may refer to the name on that page, possibly. The debt walks freely, I repeated. If the judge was going to sign a sworn statement at noon, someone knew he was about to stop walking freely. Correct. So the phrase isn't a warning number. It's a selection. Wolf opened his eyes. Whose word is that? Pike's, or it will be when I tell him. It is adequate. That was praise from Wolf, if translated from the original iron. He handed me the sheet in a protective folder. Take it to Mr. Pike, he said. Ask him to verify the ink. Invisible ink, heat, revealed writing milk, lemon juice, or another organic fluid. The laboratory will indulge itself. And I ask who had access to such exotic materials as lemons. Do not be facetious. The material matters less than the decision to use it. Because it means the judge planned for delayed revelation. Yes. I stood. And Archie. Yes. Learn who last saw Judge Hale alive. We already have a list. Then improve it. The Hale house received me with the same order as before, which was beginning to feel insulting. The front step was clean, the bell polished, the curtains aligned. A house where a man had died should have the decency to look troubled. This one looked as if grief had been dusted and put away. Pike was in the study with Lila Grant and Mrs. Arlen. Lila was standing near the carpet edge where she had found the envelope. Mrs. Arlen stood with her key ring at her waist and her mouth closed, so tightly it could have held evidence. Pike looked up. Wolf found something. How did you know? You look pleased and annoyed. Those are my working clothes. I gave him the folder. He read the revealed phrase and did not frown. He merely turned the paper toward the window, then away from it, as if the angle might improve the judge's vocabulary. The debt walks freely, he said. That's the part where you say it isn't a warning. It isn't. Good, then I won't. It's a selection. I said you would say that. He glanced at me. Wolf. Partly, Mrs. Arlen said. What does it mean? Pike looked at her. It means Judge Hale believed someone in this house carried an unpaid debt. Her expression did not change. Many people do. Did he speak of debts? Judge Hale spoke of duty. That's often debt wearing better clothes, I said. Lila lowered her eyes, but not before I saw interest there. Pike said to her, Miss Grant, when you found the envelope, did you notice whether the carpet edge had been lifted before? Yes. We all looked at her. She flushed slightly. I mean, not by me, the nap was disturbed. Why didn't you say so? Mrs. Arlen demanded. I wasn't asked. That was excellent. I made a note to recommend Lila to Wolf if she ever wanted employment. Where not being asked is no obstacle, Pike said. How disturbed. Pressed backward, as if someone had pushed the envelope in with something thin. Not fingers. The edge was too narrow. A letter opener, perhaps. The silver letter opener on the judge's desk came instantly to mind. Pike saw it too. We went to the desk. The letter opener lay where I had last seen it, aligned with the pen. Pike picked it up with a handkerchief. Its tip was clean, but clean things in that room had begun to look suspicious. Was this usually here? I asked Mrs. Arlen. Yes, exactly here. She frowned. On the desk. Not exactly. Who arranged the desk after the body was found? No one. Pike looked at her. She corrected herself. No one intentionally. Meaning, Mr. Thayer touched some papers before I stopped him. Mrs. Hale moved the glass. Miss Rachel put it back. The police came after that. Nothing. Order, I said, is a public effort here. Mrs. Arlen disliked that enough to look at me, Pike said. Who could have placed the envelope under the carpet? Agnon, who entered the study, she said. No, Lila said quietly. Again we looked at her. She pointed to the door. Not anyone. The envelope was under the outside edge, near the hall. You could place it without entering the study fully. Someone standing in the hall could kneel, lift the edge, and slide it in. Pike nodded. So the person need not have been alone with the judge. Lila nodded. Or I said, could have placed it while pretending to tie a shoe, pick up something, or inspect the carpet. Mrs. Arlen said. Guests do not kneel in halls. No, Pike said, servants do. That was not an accusation, but it behaved like one. Lila's face went still. I said, so do frightened people. Pike looked at me. He accepted the correction. We collected the household again, not the full cast, but enough to make discomfort circulate. Rachel Hale came first, then Elaine Hale, then Thomas Vane, Mark Beale, Simon Thayer, and after a delay that felt intentional, Sarah Vale. Sarah Vale was a woman in her 40s with a widow's black dress and eyes that had not forgiven the world but had studied it. Her late husband, Aaron Vale, had been connected to the Calverton appeal, and when she entered the study she looked not at the desk, nor the police, nor me, but at the chair where the judge had died. That was worth noticing. Pike showed them the revealed phrase. The reactions sorted themselves nicely. Rachel looked puzzled and wounded. Elaine looked annoyed. Thayer looked alarmed before remembering caution. Vane went pale. Beale blinked as if asked to read Greek. Sarah Vale did not change expression, but her eyes sharpened. The debt walks freely, Pike said. Does that phrase mean anything to any of you? Silence. The judge wrote it. I said, invisible until heated. He expected someone to find it later. Thayer said, you cannot assume he wrote it. No, Pike said, but we can compare the handwriting. It is his hand, Rachel said quietly. Elaine snapped. Rachel, it is, Rachel said. Pike looked at Sarah Vale. Mrs. Vale, she met his eyes. It means what it says. That's seldom enough. It means someone owed a debt. Who? My husband died with one. To Judge Hale, her voice remained level. Because of Judge Hale. Thomas Vane said, "That is unfair." Sarah turned on him. "You should know." Vane's lips pressed together. Pike said, "Mr. Vane, you were Judge Hale's clerk during the Calverton appeal." "Yes." "You handled filings." "Yes." "Communications." "Yes." "Payments. Number your initials are in the ledger." "I don't know why." "That is the least persuasive sentence in English," I said. He ignored me. Mark Beale, who had so far looked as if he had wandered into a play during the third act, said, "Edwin said all that was over." "When?" Pike asked. "Last month. He told me old cases should stay old. Yet he planned a sworn statement for today," Pike said. Beale looked confused. "Did he?" Thayer said. "Yes." Beale turned red. "You didn't tell me. I was under no obligation." "Funny how obligations appear after death," I said. Elaine Hale spoke. "My husband was ill. He became morbid about old decisions. That does not make everyone in this room a criminal." She said it like a woman defending a verdict already written. She said it like a woman defending a verdict already written. "No," Pike said. "Only one of you." That landed. Sarah Vale gave him the slightest nod, as if she approved of economy, Pike said. "Who spoke with Judge Hale before midnight?" Rachel answered first. "I did, around 9:30. About his instructions, the key wolf." Elaine said, "I spoke to him at 10. "About his health, alone." "Yes." Thayer said, "I saw him at 10:15 regarding the declaration." "Did he intend to sign?" "Yes." "Was he afraid?" Thayer hesitated, concerned. "Of whom?" "I don't know," Vane said. "I saw him at 10:30. Pike turned. "Why?" "He summoned me." "Named you as what?" Vane looked at Sarah Vale, then down as a witness. "To what?" "To communications in the Calverton appeal." "Payments." "I never handled money." "You keep choosing that phrase," Pike said. "As if money is the only guilt." Vane said nothing. Sarah Vale said, "I spoke to him last." Everyone turned. Pike said, "At what time?" 10:40. "You were seen leaving then." "Yes." "What did he say?" "That my husband had been wronged, and that public truth would not bring him back." "What did you say?" She looked at the dead judge's chair. I said private silence had not either. That was a line Wolfe would have appreciated, though he would have called it rhetorical, and therefore suspect. "Did you kill him?" Rowcliffe would have asked, if he had been there. Pike did better. "Did he give you anything?" Pike asked. Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Numbered, did you give him anything?" "Numbered, did you see the envelope?" "Numbered, did the phrase, 'the debt walks freely,' refer to you?" "No," she said. That no was firm, not defensive. Firm. Pike looked at her a moment longer, then shifted to Beale. "Mr. Beale, when did you see Judge Hale?" "I didn't, not privately." "Yet your initials are in the ledger." Beale wiped his mouth. "I ran errands then, years ago. I didn't know what they were." "For whom?" "For Edwin. Sometimes Simon, sometimes Vane. Delivering what? Letters. To whom?" He looked at Sarah Vale, then away. "To Calverton's lawyer." Sarah's face hardened, Pike said. "And you were paid?" "Small amounts." "Debt walks freely," I murmured. Beale snapped. "I didn't do anything." "That," Pike said, "is the problem with this case. Everyone did something. The question is who did one more thing last night." The questioning lasted another half hour. It gave us more heat than light. But heat had done well for us already. By 6, I was back at West 35th Street. Wolfe had finished with the orchids, washed, changed, and was waiting in the office. I gave him everything, including Lila's observation about the carpet nap, the letter opener, the reactions to the phrase, and the sequence of visits before midnight. He listened with eyes closed. When I finished, he said, "Mrs. Vale did not kill him." That was quick. Her statement was an accusation alive for 12 years. She would not hide behind invisible writing. Vain, possible. Thea, more possible. Beale, useful, not central. Elaine, never dismiss a wife. Rachel, number, you sound sure. I am sure she did not compose that phrase. Because grief has made her literal. I nodded. The debt walks freely. Who is the debt? Wolf opened his eyes. Not who, he said. What? That again. A debt may be transferred, assigned, inherited, concealed. Judge Hale used legal language as naturally as breathing. If he wrote that the debt walks freely, he may have meant that the obligation has taken human form, or that the beneficiary of the old wrong is alive and unpunished. Beneficiary, yes. I looked at my notes. Who benefited from the Calverton appeal. Find that, Archie, and you will have advanced from motion to progress. That's your kindest insult this week. It is only Tuesday. He reached for the revealed sheet and studied it again. The judge had spoken, Wolf said, but not loudly enough for fear. Meaning he feared the wrong ears, or the right ones. Yes, outside, the evening settled over Manhattan. Inside, Wolf's office was warm, orderly, and full of a dead judge's hidden words. The debt walks freely. No name, no crime. Just a phrase like a door half open, and somewhere beyond it, someone had already stepped through. Chapter 5. The House of Routine. Every servant had their pattern, every step repeated like law. The carpet was lifted daily, but only slightly, only by Lila. She cleaned where others passed, saw what others stepped over. The envelope had been placed for her eyes, not the world's. The judge trusted habit more than people. If you want to hide something in a large house, you don't hide it from everyone. You hide it from the wrong people. That was the first useful thought I had when I returned to West 35th Street with Pike's notes, Lila's observation, and a growing suspicion that Judge Hale had not merely left clues. He had assigned them. Wolf was in the office, of course. He had finished with the orchids, and had begun with his beer, which meant the world was again acceptable in small portions. Well, he said. The house runs on routine, I told him. Not suggestion, not convenience. Routine, every servant has a pattern, and nothing interrupts it except death. That is often insufficient, Wolf said. Lila lifts the carpet edge every morning, just slightly, enough to smooth it, enough to notice something beneath. Yes, the envelope was placed exactly there. Yes, not for a guest, not for the police, not for the family. Number for Lila. Wolf's eyes opened slightly wider. Explain, he said. She's the only one who looks down, I said. The only one who would notice the curl, lift it without thinking, and find something hidden there. Everyone else walks over it. Yes. So the judge placed the envelope where only habit would reveal it. Yes. And habit, I said, is more reliable than people. Wolf nodded once. He trusted the system he understood, which was not his family. Number, or his lawyer. Number, or his past. Number, I sat, which means, I continued, he expected trouble. Yes, he expected to die before he could speak. Yes, and he arranged his evidence accordingly. Wolf took a sip of beer. That is intelligent, he said, also tragic. Why tragic? Because it implies he believed none of those around him would act correctly in the moment. That's not belief, I said. That's experience. Wolf did not argue. I leaned forward. There's more, I said. The envelope wasn't just hidden, it was delayed. Yes, not meant to be found immediately, not meant to be lost either. Yes, which means timing mattered. Yes, again. Everything in this case involves timing, Wolf said. The visit before midnight, the delayed discovery, the planned statement at noon, which he never signed. Number because he was killed. Yes, I tapped my notebook. And someone in that house knew he was about to speak. Certainly, which narrows motive. It clarifies it. Same thing. Number, I sighed. You're enjoying this? Moderately. That's your favorite word. It is sufficient. I stood. I'm going back. Where? To the house of routine. Good. And this time, I said, I'm not looking at people. What are you looking at? Patterns. That earned me a glance of approval so faint it might have been imagination. At Riddle Street, the Hale house had resumed its posture of correctness. The front hall was polished. The air was still. The servants moved quietly, not out of fear, but because that was how they moved. Routine Pike met me near the stairs. You look like you've decided something, he said. I've decided the judge was smarter than all of us. That's not difficult. He didn't hide the envelope, I said. He assigned it. Pike's eyes narrowed slightly. To Lila, yes. Because of routine. Yes. He nodded. I thought so. That's annoying. Why, I prefer being first. You weren't. Thank you. We went to the servants' corridor, where routine lived more openly than in the drawing rooms. Mrs. Arlen stood with a clipboard, which confirmed my theory that even grief had a schedule. Miss Grant, Pike said. Lila appeared within seconds. Not hurried, not slow, exactly as expected. Yes, sir. You lift the carpet every morning, I said. Yes. Same time? Yes. What time? 8. Every day? Yes. Even yesterday? Yes. Even after the judge died? She hesitated. Number yesterday, I was told not to disturb anything. So the last time you lifted it before finding the envelope was the morning before? Yes. Which means the envelope was placed after that? Yes. During the night? Yes, Pike said. Could anyone have seen you lift it this morning? Number. Why not? I do it quickly. No one watches. That's the point, I said. She looked at me. Miss Grant, I said, the envelope was meant for you. She blinked. No, sir, she said. Yes. Why? Because you're the only one who would find it. She shook her head. I just clean. Exactly, Mrs. Arlen said sharply. Mr. Goodwin. I held up a hand. Routine, I said. You follow it. You trust it. You rely on it. The judge knew that. Lila looked uncertain, Pike said. Did the judge ever speak to you directly, sometimes? About what? Small things? Carpets? Yes. That was enough. I looked at Pike. He knew. Yes, Pike said. He knew she would find it. Yes. And he trusted that more than telling anyone else. Yes. Mrs. Arlen said, this is absurd. No. Pike said, it's precise. I walked back toward the study. The house runs on routine, I said. Servants move. Family waits. Guests pretend. Yes, Pike said. And the killer disrupts it. No, I said. Uses it. We entered the study again. The desk was unchanged. The carpet lay flat. The chair remained empty, but now the room felt different. Before, it had been orderly now. It was arranged. I walked to the door and looked down at the carpet edge. Placed for Lila, I said. Yes, which means the judge expected the message to survive the night. Yes, which means he didn't think the killer would find it. Yes, or understand it. Pike nodded slowly. That's important, he said. Yes, the killer may not know the message exists, or may not know its meaning, or may not care. Unlikely, I said. A man who kills to silence truth cares about messages. Pike looked at the desk. Then he may be looking for it now. That settled the room. I turned. Who has access to this study after the murder? I asked. Police, Pike said. Family. Yes. Servants. Yes. Anunlinga. Yes. Who? There. Vane, Mrs. Hale. Together, numbers separately. Yes. Looking for something. Possibly. Or making sure something was gone. Pike nodded. I walked to the desk and looked at the letter opener again. Thin enough to slide the envelope under the carpet, I said. Yes, on the desk. Yes, which means it could have been used after the murder. Yes, by someone who remained. Yes, which narrows timing. It does. I turned back to Pike. The envelope was placed after the judge died, I said. Yes, which means the killer, or someone else, placed it. Yes, and if it was the judge, it had to be before death. Yes, but Lila didn't see it in the morning. Number, so it wasn't there then. Number, so it was placed after. Yes. We stood there letting that settle. The judge didn't place it, I said. Number, someone else did. Yes, someone who knew routine. Yes, someone who knew Lila would find it. Yes, and someone who wanted it found. But not immediately. Yes, I smiled. That's not just clever, I said. That's deliberate. Pike said quietly, it's staging. Yes. And the phrase, the debt walks freely. Still true, Pike said. Yes, I agreed. But now, he added, it may not belong to the judge. That was the first time the case shifted cleanly. The house had been orderly. Then it had been arranged. Now it was manipulated. And that meant something important. The message under the carpet was not just evidence. It had been moved into the path of routine by someone who understood the house's order as well as its crime. It was part of the crime on Riddle Street. Habit reveals truth. But only if truth was there to begin with. Chapter 6. The four who remained 4 men had visited the judge that evening, each with history, each with reason. A lawyer, a merchant, a former officer, and a clerk who spoke too little. All left before the body was found, all accounted for by time and witness. Yet one carried a debt no law had cleared. Rowan did not ask who lied. He asked who understood the message. The next morning, Wolf came down from the plant rooms at 11, which was his custom, and into the office with the expression of a man who had left superior company upstairs. Orchids do not commit murder. They merely withhold bloom, which in Wolf's opinion is a lesser offense but not a negligible one. I had the morning's report spread on my desk, Pike's memorandum, Lila Grant's statement, Rachel Hale's revised account, the copied entries from the Calverton ledger, and my own notes, which were legible in the sections where I expected Wolf to look and more adventurous elsewhere. Wolf lowered himself into his chair. Well? The case has become masculine, I said. His brows moved. That is rarely an improvement. 4 men visited Judge Hale last night and left before the body was found. Simon Thayer, lawyer, Jonas Merrow, merchant, Colonel Abel Rusk, former officer, Thomas Vane, former clerk. Each had history, each had reason, each is accounted for by time and witness. Then the accounting is suspect. That was my thought. But Pike's is better. He says not to ask who lied, ask who understood the message. Wolf's eyes opened slightly. Mr. Pike continues to justify tolerance. The message under the carpet. Yes, if it was staged, only a man who understood its meaning could stage it usefully. Exactly. Wolf held out a hand. The 4. I supplied them. Simon Thayer was already known to us. Lawyer, careful, precise, connected to the judge's declaration, and to the Calverton ledger by initials he wished had belonged to someone else. He had visited Judge Hale at 10:15 and claimed to have discussed the sworn statement. Hale was to sign the next day. Jonas Merrow was new to us, though not to Hale. He was a merchant who had made a fortune importing machine tools and selling them to men who thought industry was the same as progress. 12 years earlier, he had been a creditor in the Calverton matter, and had gained heavily when Miles Calverton went down. He had visited at 9:50 and left at 10:10, witnessed by Daniel the footman. Colonel Abel Rusk had once been something in the army, and was now a professional possessor of memories. He had testified in the Calverton appeal, or rather had declined to testify fully, which amounts to testimony in a better suit. He had visited at 10:20 and left at 10:35. Seen by Mrs. Arlen from the upper landing. Thomas Vane, former clerk to Judge Hale, had visited at 10:30 8, and remained until 10:50. He had said less than the others, and had looked worse doing it. He was the clerk who spoke too little. Wolf listened with his eyes closed. Cause of death, he asked. Still uncertain. Medical examiner leans toward a cardiac seizure brought on by shock or a drug not yet identified. No injection mark found, no poison in glass, no weapon, no bruise, no struggle. Pifu. I agree. A murdered judge who dies like a natural man is discourteous. What did the servants hear? Nothing useful. Daniel heard the front door open and close for each visitor. Mrs. Arlen heard Rusk's cane on the stairs. Lila was in the servants' hall after 10. Rachel spoke with her father earlier, and then stayed mostly in the library. Elaine says she retired at 11. Mark Beale drifted about like a loose cushion. And the judge was alive after the 4 men departed. According to whom? Wolf opened his eyes. Exactly. I looked at the list. Rachel says she heard his study bell at 11. 10, Mrs. Arlen answered it, and brought hot water. She saw him seated, alive and cross. He told her not to admit anyone else. Good, that means the 4 men left before the last certain sighting. Or one did not. The doors are servants of assumption. I grinned. You've been saving that. Number it arrived and I permitted it. He leaned back. What is the debt? That's the question. The debt walks freely. Could mean Merrow, who profited from Calverton's ruin. Could mean Rusk, who withheld testimony. Could mean Vane, who handled documents. Could mean Thayer, who helped bury the legal truth. Which one would understand the phrase? All of them. Number. I waited. Wolf said, a message intended to select must be intelligible to the selected and ambiguous to others. If all 4 understand it equally, it selects no one. That's neat. It is elementary. Still neat. He ignored me. Go to Riddle Street, bring Mr. Pike the question. Which man reacted not to the phrase, but to the concealment, the envelope under the carpet. Yes, the phrase may be counterfeit, the hiding place is not. It required knowledge of household routine. Who among the 4 men would know Lila Grant lifted that carpet? I stared at him. That's good. Of course. It points to Vane. Does it? He was once clerk in the house. Maybe familiar with servants. Maybe is a poor horse. Ride it only to the gate. I got my hat. And Archie. Yes, do not let Mr. Pike arrest grammar. Meaning first, language after. I'll tell him you said so. Do not. Riddle Street was grey under a low sky. The kind that makes brick houses look as if they are remembering unpaid taxes. The Hale mansion had changed again. Yesterday it had seemed orderly, then arranged. Now it seemed watchful, as if the dead judge's hidden note had awakened some old habit in the walls. Pike was in the study with the mantel clock open. That is to say, the brass back had been removed and its little mechanism exposed. He looked up when I entered. If you're here about the clock, it is correct, he said. I'm here about men, worse. 4 men remained in the case after the women were offended by suspicion. They were never out of it. No, but Wolf wants to know which of the 4 understood the message. Pike closed the clock. Not who lied. Who understood. He nodded. Yes, you anticipated that. I had arrived near it. Wolf will be devastated. No, he won't. No, he won't. Pike crossed to the desk. On it were 4 cards, 1 for each man, in his neat hand. Thayer, Merrow, Rusk. Vane beneath each were times, statements, and connections. Let's hear them, I said. Thayer, first lawyer, knew the sworn statement, knew the ledger, knew Judge Hale planned to speak. He had opportunity to influence the legal handling after death. He arrived at 10:15, left at 10:20. 5. You said 10:15 to 10:20. Revised. Daniel was off by 5 minutes. Thayer corrected him too quickly. Lawyers dislike loose minutes. Especially useful ones. Next. Jonas Merrow, merchant. He profited from Calverton's conviction. Calverton's company collapsed after the appeal, and Merrow bought its patents for almost nothing. He says Hale summoned him to discuss a charitable foundation. No document supports that. Rich men invent charity when frightened. Sometimes he left at 10:10. Rusk, Colonel Abel Rusk. He had served on a board that investigated Calverton before the trial. He possessed letters that could have helped the appeal and never produced them. He claims he came to ask Hale not to revive old scandal. At least he's direct. He is too direct. That often means he has chosen which truth to spend. And Vane, Thomas Vane, clerk, drafted memoranda for Hale during the appeal, later dismissed. He claims Hale summoned him to ask whether old files still existed. He says no. He left at 10:50. Spoke too little. Yes. What did Lila say? Pike glanced toward the hall. She says Vane knew the carpet. That was fast. I asked before you arrived. I sighed. This is why Wolfe tolerates you. Pike continued. When Vane served in the house, he was not merely a court clerk. He often brought papers here. Lila was young then, but she remembers him waiting outside the study. He teased her once about smoothing the same carpet every day. That puts him in position to know the hiding place. Yes, and the staged message. Yes, but does it prove he killed Hale? Number. I hate that answer. It prevents mistakes. We called Lila in. She came promptly, hands clean, apron changed, eyes steady. She was still young enough to be nervous and sensible enough not to spend it all at once. You remember Mr. Vane? I asked. Yes, sir. From years ago. Yes, he knew about the carpet. He noticed. He said I fussed with it like it was a sleeping cat. That's vivid. He was kinder then. Than now. She hesitated. Quieter now. Quieter isn't necessarily unkind. No, sir. But it can be heavy, Pike said. Did Judge Hale ever speak of Mr. Vane? Not to me. Did Mr. Vane come often recently? Twice in the last month. That was new. Pike's eyes sharpened. Dates? She supplied them. Pike wrote them down. I asked, where did he wait? Study door. Sometimes hall bench. Near the carpet. Yes. Could he have placed an envelope there without being noticed? She considered. Yes, if he knelt as if tying a shoe or dropped his gloves. Did he carry gloves? All gentlemen do. That's not an answer. She smiled faintly. Yes, sir, he did. After Lila left, Pike looked at the Vane card. He knew routine, he said, and spoke too little. Yes, but Wolfe warned me not to ride maybe past the gate. Pike almost smiled. Sensible. So we need more. We got more from the four men themselves. Pike had them brought separately to the library, and I took notes because no one had forbidden me, and because I was faster than the sergeant assigned to that indignity. Simon Thayer came first. He wore grey, spoke dryly, and resented being questioned with the controlled sorrow of a man accustomed to charging for his own time. The phrase means nothing definite, he said after reading the message. The debt walks freely, Pike repeated. No legal resonance. Debt is a common word. So is guilt, I said. Both travel well in your profession. He ignored me. Pike asked, would Judge Hale use invisible writing? As a boy, perhaps. As an adult. He had theatrical instincts when conscience pressed him. That sounds personal. I knew him 30 years. You knew the Calverton matter. I knew portions. Which portions? Procedural. Payments. Number. Why were your initials in the ledger? Thayer folded his hands. I carried instructions. At the time, I believed them proper. That sentence has been used to decorate many crimes, I said. He looked at me. Mr. Goodwin, you mistake impertinence for intelligence. Constantly, but not fatally, Pike said. Did you understand the hidden message? Number, he lied, but like a lawyer, not entirely. Jonas Merrow entered next. He was large, red-faced, and prosperous enough to be offended by chairs. His hands were thick, his watch chain heavy, and his voice had the volume of a man who has discovered money amplifies opinions. "The debt walks freely," he said. "Sounds like Hale trying to dress shame in poetry." "Whose shame?" Pike asked. "His. You profited from Calverton's conviction. I bought distressed assets legally. Distressed by a conviction you helped preserve." Merrow's eyes narrowed. "Careful, I am," Pike said. Merrow's reaction to the message was irritation, not recognition. He understood the broad accusation, but not the mechanism. When asked about Lila and the carpet, he said, "Who?" and meant it. He had never noticed the maid, which made him a brute, but not the right kind of murderer. Colonel Abel Russ came third. He was tall, spare, and carried a cane not because he needed it, but because it completed the argument of his body. He read the phrase, "once." "Judge Hale had a taste for moral theatrics," he said. "You withheld letters in the Calverton appeal," Pike said. "I obeyed instructions from counsel." "Whose counsel?" Rusk's mouth tightened. "The Army's, and afterward." "Afterward Calverton was convicted. Did you owe him a debt?" "I owed him truth," Rusk said. "I did not pay it." That was the first answer of the day that did not smell of varnish. "Did you kill Judge Hale?" "Number, did you understand the message?" "Yes." "How?" Rusk tapped the paper. "It means a man can escape law and remain in debt." "Could it mean you?" "Yes." "Does it?" "Number." "Who then?" Rusk looked toward the closed door, the one who still profits. That answer stayed in the room after he left. Thomas Vane came last. He was thin, pale, and neatly dressed in a suit that had been brushed too often. He had clerk written all over him, not in ink but in habits, the careful hands, the lowered eyes, the delayed answers. He took the paper, read the phrase, and gave it back. "Nothing," Pike asked. "It is vague, is it?" "Yes." "Judge Hale summoned you last night." "Yes." "Why, to ask about old files?" "The Calverton files, yes. What did you tell him? That I no longer had them." "Was that true?" "Yes." "Did he believe you?" A pause. "I don't know." "Did he mention a debt?" "Number, the phrase doesn't trouble you." "Number, that was a lie. But not the noisy kind. It was small, tucked in, well-trained." I said, "Miss Grant remembers you noticing the carpet years ago." He looked at me sharply, then recovered. "I don't recall." "She recalls enough for both of you. Servants remember odd things." "Yes," Pike said. "That is why they are useful." Vane's mouth tightened. "I did not place that envelope." "Who said you did?" Pike asked. "No one, that," I said, "is the trouble with answering early. It saves us asking." Vane rose. "I have nothing more to say." Pike let him go. When the door shut, I wrote one word under his name, afraid. Pike saw it. "Afraid of what?" "That's your department." "Number." "It's Wolf's." "Then we'll carry it home like groceries." By evening, I was back in Wolf's office. He had dined on duck, which made him harder to impress and easier to offend. I gave him the reports in order, including Lila's memory of Vane and the carpet, Thayer's legal smoke, Merrow's brute profit, Rusk's honest guilt, and Vane's premature denial. Wolf listened. When I finished, he said, "Colonel Rusk is not the murderer because he admitted moral debt. Because he understands debt abstractly, the hidden message is practical. Merrow, Number, he would destroy evidence, not compose it. Thayer, dangerous but not likely to know the carpet routine. Vane? That's all. For now. You think he understood the message?" "Yes. Because he understood Lila's routine." "Yes, and because he denied placing the envelope before he was accused." "That's not enough." "Number, good. I was afraid you'd arrest him with grammar." Wolf ignored that. "The four men are not equal. One has legal knowledge. One has profit. One has conscience. One has memory." Vane. "Yes. And memory is the key." Wolf leaned back. The envelope was placed by someone who understood that a servant's habit would reveal it at a chosen time. That is not the act of a merchant, not a soldier, not a lawyer accustomed to formal channels. It is the act of a clerk. Former clerk, once trained, always trained. What debt does he carry? Wolf opened his eyes. Find the missing page. I groaned. Again. The torn page will tell us which debt walks freely. And where do I look? In the place a clerk would trust. Files, number books. Number his own memory. Wolf's lips tightened. Now you approach usefulness. I sat still for a moment. The message is not to reveal the debt, I said. It's to remind someone who already knows. Yes. Someone who would understand without names. Yes. Vain. Possibly. But who killed the judge? Wolf closed his eyes. Outside, Manhattan darkened and lit itself again, block by block. Inside, Wolf's office held the names of 4 men, 4 histories, and one phrase that had begun as invisible writing and become a selection. The debt walks freely. Rowan Pike had asked the right question, not who lied, who understood. And somewhere among those 4 men, one had understood too well. Chapter 7. The meaning of debt. The lawyer owed money, but money leaves records. The merchant owed favors, but favors make noise. The officer owed honor, but honor rarely kills. Only the clerk had a debt buried too deep for paper, a case dismissed, a life quietly ruined by Hale's judgment. By the next morning, the case had developed the shape Wolf likes best. Not simple, not noisy, and not dependent on the honesty of anyone present. A murder case, which depends on honest witnesses, is like a souffle carried through a subway station. It may survive, but I would not wager lunch on it. At breakfast, Wolf ate broiled kidneys toast, peach jam, and enough eggs to imply confidence in the poultry industry. He had slept well, which was unfair. I had slept with 4 names marching around my head in hats labeled lawyer, merchant, officer, and clerk. They had refused to keep step. When Wolf came to the office at 11, I had the 4 cards laid out on my desk again. There, Merrow, Rusk, Vain Wolf saw them and lowered himself into his chair. You have arranged them alphabetically, he asked, morally. Then the order is meaningless. Not entirely. Thayer first because he has money trouble. Merrow second because he has profit trouble. Rusk third because he has conscience trouble. Vain last because he has silence trouble. Wolf grunted. You improve under pressure, slowly. I'll have that engraved. He leaned back. Proceed. I picked up the first card. Simon Thayer, lawyer, owed money. He was overextended. Pike found 2 notes coming due, one secured by fees expected from the Hale estate. Hale's sworn statement might have exposed Thayer's role in the Calverton appeal and destroyed him professionally. Motive. Money, Wolf said. Yes, money leaves records. It did. Banknotes, mortgages, overdue accounts. Then he is vulnerable to exposure, but not necessarily murder. A lawyer with money trouble first negotiates, then delays, then fabricates. Murder is expensive and inelegant. That's one of your prejudices. It is a professional observation. I took up the second card. Jonas Merrow, merchant, bought Calverton assets after the appeal failed. Owed favors to men who made the sale possible. Hale's statement would prove the assets were obtained through corrupt suppression. Favors, Wolf said. Yes, favors make noise. They require messengers, meetings, gratitude, resentment. A merchant's guilt has a market odor. Mr. Merrow is crude, not subtle. He could hire subtlety. He could, did he? No evidence. Then put him aside, not away. I took the third. Colonel Abel Rusk, withheld letters that might have helped Calverton, owed honor. Wolf made a face. Honor is a word men use when they wish to avoid arithmetic. Still, he admitted it. He said he owed Calverton truth and did not pay. Precisely. Honor rarely kills when confession will do. Colonel Rusk is preparing confession, not concealment. You're sure? Number, I am sufficiently annoyed by him to think him innocent. That's novel. Not at all. I took the last card. Thomas Vane, former clerk, knew Lila's carpet routine, knew the judge's habits, knew the old case, spoke too little, reacted to the message, denied placing the envelope before being accused. Wolf opened his eyes. And there's no paper trail. Ah, that's bad. That is important. Money leaves records, favors make noise, honor postures, but the kind of debt Mr. Vane carries may be buried too deep for paper. What kind? Wolf did not answer. I said, You know something. I suspect something. That's not enough for breakfast. It was enough for kidneys. The phone rang. I answered. It was Pike. Goodwin. Pike, we found a connection between Vane and Calverton that isn't in the ledger. He's ahead of us again. Wolf's expression said he doubted it. Into the phone, I said, proceed. Vane had a sister, Ruth Vane. She was employed by Calverton's firm before the appeal. And she signed an affidavit that was never filed, helpful to Calverton. Yes, it would have shown that the alleged transfers were authorized after the date Calverton was accused of falsifying them. Meaning Calverton may not have been guilty of the main charge. Where's the affidavit? Gone, but the notary remembers it. The filing clerk remembers Vane delivering something to Judge Hale's chambers and leaving with it again. I said, that's a nice little bomb. There's more. Ruth Vane died 3 months after Calverton's appeal failed. Suicide according to records. I said nothing for a beat. Pike did not fill it. Then I said, the debt. Yes, he said. Vane's debt may not be to Calverton, it may be to his sister. I repeated it to Wolf. He closed his eyes. Bring him, Wolf said. I relayed that. Pike said, Now, I said. Wolf likes fresh panic. I'll bring him by noon if Kramer doesn't swallow the city first. I hung up. Wolf remained still. I knew better than to interrupt, so naturally I interrupted. Vane's sister had evidence. It vanished. She died. Vane has been carrying that for 12 years. Yes. Hale's judgment ruined Calverton, and maybe Ruth Vane too. Yes. That's the debt buried too deep for paper. Yes. Then Vane is our man? I stared. No. Not yet, Wolf. If motive were a suit, this one fits him and includes cufflinks. Motive is not murder. No, but it often shakes hands with it. He may have placed the envelope. May have, probably. Then he staged the message. Probably. Then why not killed Hale? Because the message is staged does not protect him, it exposes him. I considered that. Unless he wanted to be exposed. Precisely. That's worse. Not worse, more interesting. I sat down. You think Vane left the envelope to force the truth out? Perhaps. After Hale died? Yes. So he found the judge dead, placed the envelope and left, possibly. Without calling anyone. Fear and vengeance are not courteous. But if he did not kill Hale, then he saw an opportunity to turn death into accusation. I whistled softly. That's ugly. Yes. The bell rang at 12:20. I went to the door and admitted Pike with Thomas Vane and a uniformed man. Vane looked thinner than before, which took talent. He removed his hat and held it carefully, as if afraid it might testify. Wolf received them in the office. He did not offer Vane the red leather chair. He gave him the straight-backed one. That was not accidental. Men who need comfort should not receive it before speaking. Mr. Vane, Wolf said, sit. Vane sat. Pike remained standing near my desk. I took my chair. Wolf looked at Vane for 10 seconds without speaking. It worked better than shouting. Vane's fingers tightened around his hat. Your sister. Wolf said. Vane's face changed. Not much, but enough. It was like seeing a curtain twitch in a dark room. What about her? Ruth Vane. Vane swallowed. She is dead. Yes, because of the Calverton appeal. Number Fu. The word hit him harder than an accusation, Wolf continued. She prepared an affidavit favorable to Miles Calverton. It was not filed. You carried it to Judge Hale's chambers and later removed it. Why? Vane's mouth closed, opened again. I was ordered. By whom? Judge Hale. You obeyed. I was his clerk. You were his accomplice. Vane stood. Pike moved half a step. Vane sat again. Wolf said, This is not a courtroom. I need not indulge procedural perfume. You took evidence that might have affected a man's appeal. That man was ruined. Your sister died. Judge Hale lived prosperously. You carried the knowledge, Vane whispered. I did not know then. No. I knew it was irregular. I did not know what it meant. That is what cowards call ignorance when memory becomes inconvenient. Vane's eyes lifted, wet and angry. You think I have not told myself that? Frequently, I imagine. It has not improved the dead. Pike looked at Wolf. Wolf did not look back. Did you place the envelope under the carpet? Wolf asked. Vane did not answer. Did you? Yes, he said. There it was. I wrote it down. After Judge Hale died. Yes, how did you know where to place it? He looked at me. Then Wolf. Lila, years ago, she always lifted that edge. Why place it? Because the judge was dead. That is not an answer. Vane's voice shook. Because if he died, they would bury it again. They would say heart age misfortune. They would take his ledger and seal it, and argue over words until everyone forgot Ruth and Calverton and the rest of it. I wanted the message found. You wrote it, number, you placed it. Yes. Where did you get it? Vane hesitated. Answer, Pike said quietly. From the judge's desk. When? After I saw him. I live, a long silence. Number that made the office smaller. Wolf leaned forward slightly. You found him dead? Yes. What time? About 11:20. You had supposedly left at 10:50. I returned. How? Side entrance. I still had a key. Pike's eyes sharpened. You denied that. Yes. Why return? Vane's hands twisted around his hat brim. He had sent for me. He said he would sign the statement next day and that he would name me. She had suffered enough. And found him dead. Yes. In his chair. Yes. Did you touch him? Number, desk. Yes. What did you take? Nothing, Mr. Vane. Wolf said. Vane closed his eyes. The paper, the visible message, it was on the desk. The one found under the carpet. Yes. Was the invisible phrase already on it? I didn't know. I saw only the written lines. So you placed the judge's message under the carpet? Yes. Why not call for help? He was dead. That is why one calls. I was afraid. Of being accused? Yes. Because you had motive? Yes. And because you had returned secretly? Yes. And because you had wished him dead? Vane's face crumpled, but he held his voice. Yes. Wolf leaned back. Did you kill him? Number. It was not loud. It was not theatrical. It had the dull sound of exhausted truth. Wolf closed his eyes. Pike said, What else was on the desk? Vane frowned. The ledger, a glass, the lamp, papers, the torn page. Number. Was the ledger open? Yes. At what page? I don't remember. Try. Near the back. Was a page missing then? I don't know. Wolf opened his eyes. Did you see anyone leaving? Numbered. Did you hear anyone? Numbered. Did you see the stepmother, Mrs. Hale? Number Thayer. Number Rachel. Number Anion. Vane shook his head. Wolf looked at Pike. Mr. Vane must be held, but not for murder. Pike nodded. Vane looked from one to the other. You believe me? No, Wolf said. I accept parts of what you say because they fit better than lies. That is almost humane, I said. It is not intended to be. Pike took Vane away. At the door, Vane stopped and looked back. Judge Hale ruined Ruth, he said, but last night he was trying to tell the truth. Yes, Wolf said, that should matter. It does not enough. After they left, I returned to my desk. So Vane placed the envelope but didn't kill Hale. Yes, he returned secretly, found the body, moved the note, and left. Yes, that makes him guilty of several things, including being an idiot. Fear reduces intelligence and increases mess. Indeed. I looked at the 4 cards again. So we eliminate the clerk number. I stopped. No, we eliminate him as the primary murderer, not as a participant in the concealment. Fine. But if he found Hale dead at 11:20, the judge died before then. Yes. Medical estimate was 11-1. This narrows it. Yes. Who saw Hale alive after 10:50? Mrs. Arlen at 11:10 with hot water. Then he died between 11:10 and 11:20. Yes. That's a 10-minute window. Excellent, Wolf said. Excellent for whom? For us, not for the murderer. I looked at the cards. They are left at 10:20. 5. Merrow at 10:10. Rusk at 10:30. 5. Vane at 10:50. Returned at 11:20. None in the window. So it appears. Did she? I stared at him. Oh no. Oh yes. You think the 11:10 sighting is false. I think it is crucial, therefore it is suspect. Mrs. Arlen, possibly, or the bell. The study bell could be rung by someone else? Find out. I groaned. I knew you were going to say that. Then why do you complain? For routine. Wolf closed his eyes. Routine is powerful, Judge Hale trusted it. The murderer may have used it. I stood, hat in hand. At the door I turned. The meaning of debt. Wolf opened one eye. Debt, he said, is not what is owed. It is what someone cannot bear to pay. That sent me back to Riddle Street with a better sentence than comfort. The lawyer owed money. The merchant owed favors. The officer owed honor. The clerk owed a dead sister, a truth he had buried with his own hands. But if Wolf was right, that still did not tell us who killed Judge Hale. It only told us why one man wanted the silence broken. The murderer was the one who still needed it kept. Chapter 8. The hidden delivery. The clerk had once worked inside the house, years before disgrace. But the wife still commanded it every day. He knew the routines, the carpets, the places no guest would touch. He entered that night as a visitor, but moved like memory. The envelope had not been hidden by the clerk at all. It had been placed by someone still moving freely under the authority of the house. The judge had prepared his accusation in advance. At 4 o'clock that afternoon, I was back on Riddle Street, proving again that Nero Wolf's profession consists largely of making my shoes earn their keep. The Hale house had begun to lose its first arrogance. Houses, like people, can maintain an expression only so long under examination. The front steps were still swept, the brass was still bright, the hall still smelled of wax and old books. But beneath that practiced order there was now something strained, like a witness who has repeated a lie too often and can no longer remember whether it was meant to comfort or deceive. Pike met me in the study. He was standing by the wall cord beside the judge's desk, the bell pull. It was braided silk, dark green with a brass knob at the end. The kind of thing a judge might use to summon hot water, tea, a servant, or fate. Pike had the wall plate open and was looking into the mechanism with the grave patience of a man reading a will. You found the bell, I said. It was here all along. Things often are. That's their trick. He glanced at me. Wolf sent you to ask whether the 11:10 bell could be false. Wolf sends me places so people will discover what he already suspects. Yes, Pike said. It could. That saved time, how? He pointed. The bell wire runs through the wall to the servants' hall, but there's a second pull point behind the bookcase alcove old service arrangement. Disconnected once, reconnected badly. A person standing near the study door could tug the exposed line through a gap behind the side cabinet, meaning someone could ring the study bell without being at the desk. Yes, could Mrs. Arlen know the difference? Number the bell sounds the same in the servants' hall. So the 11:10 summons doesn't prove Judge Hale was alive. Not by itself. Did Mrs. Arlen see him? Pike closed the wall plate. She says she did. That wasn't the question. We went to Mrs. Arlen. The housekeeper received us in the morning room, though it was afternoon, and therefore another small lie. She sat upright in a chair near the window, her key ring on the table beside her. It was the first time I had seen the keys out of her possession, and that told me she was either rattled or trying to appear cooperative. With housekeepers there is no safe wager, Pike said. At 11:10 last night the study bell rang. Yes. You answered it. Yes. You brought hot water. Yes. And saw Judge Hale alive. Yes. Describe exactly what you saw. She drew herself up. Judge Hale was seated at his desk. Facing you, slightly turned. Did he speak? Numbered. Did he move? Number. Then how did you know he was alive? Her eyes hardened. He was sitting upright. Dead men have done that, I said. Especially judges. She ignored me, Pike said. Was the lamp lit? Yes. Bright. The desk lamp. The room was dim otherwise. Where did you stand? At the door. Did you enter? Judge Hale disliked intrusion when working. That is not vision, Pike said. Her mouth closed. I asked, did you place the hot water? On the small table inside the door. Not on the desk. Numbered. Did the judge usually ask for hot water at 11:10? Sometimes did he ring once or twice? Could someone else have rung? Pike said. Yes. She looked at him. He explained the exposed line. Her face did not change during the explanation, but when he finished, her right hand moved an inch toward the key ring and stopped. That was fear seeking employment. Who knew about that second pull? I asked. No one. Mrs. Arlen, Pike said. She shut her eyes briefly. Mr. Vane might have known years ago. There it was again, Vane. Once inside the house, once part of its machinery, once young enough to notice the servant roots, and old enough now to be damaged by them, I said. Who else, Judge Hale? Mr. Thayer, perhaps. Mr. Beale was raised here for a time, but he would not notice a bell wire if it bit him. Accurate, probably, Pike said. Mrs. Hale. Possibly. Rachel. Miss Rachel was a child when that passage of wiring was last used. We left her there with her keys, and for once she did not seem sorry to see us go. In the study, Lila Grant was waiting near the hall because Pike had sent for her. She had that same attentive stillness which had made her valuable from the beginning. Some witnesses listen only to questions. Lila listened to rooms. Miss Grant, Pike said, when did you last lift the study carpet before finding the envelope? The morning before Judge Hale died. At what time? 8:10. You're exact. She looked faintly embarrassed. I cleaned the study after the breakfast trays are cleared. Did anyone see you do it? Mrs. Arlen passed the door. And after that, could anyone have placed the envelope? Yes. Who had access? Judge Hale, of course. Miss Rachel, Mrs. Hale. Mr. Vane when he visited. Mr. Thayer, the others, if admitted. I said. When Thomas Vane came last night, where did he stand? Near the study door. How near? Near the carpet edge. Did he bend down? You're sure? Yes. Did he drop anything? Gloves, papers, hat? Pike looked at me. So Vane did not place it then. Not while she saw, Lila said. He was alone in the hall for a moment after I left. How long? Pike asked. Perhaps half a minute. Bino, to slide an envelope under a carpet. I said yes. Lila shook her head. We both looked at her. Why not? Pike asked. Because the corner was flat after he left. How do you know? I looked. That deserved respect. You looked because... Mr. Vane always looked down there. It made me look too. I stared at her. Miss Grant, if you ever tire of cleaning, there are occupations in which you could make men uncomfortable. She smiled faintly. I already do that, sir, Pike said. Then the envelope was not placed by Vane during his official visit. No, sir, but it was there when you found it the next morning. Yes. And you did not lift the carpet after Vane left. Number that left us with two possibilities. Vane placed it after returning secretly, as he had confessed. Or someone else placed it between his first visit and death. But Wolf had already begun to dislike the first answer, and Wolf's dislikes often lead to facts. We confronted Vane again at police headquarters, where Pike had him held in a room with a wooden table, 2 chairs, and a window too high to encourage poetry. Vane looked as if the night had removed another layer from him. He looked up when we entered. I have told you everything. No, I said. You told us enough to make yourself miserable. Pike sat opposite him. You said you found the judge dead at about 11:20. Yes. You said you took the paper from his desk. Yes. The visible message.
Yes.
And placed it under the carpet. Yes. When exactly? After I found him. Before you left. Yes. Did you use the letter opener? A pause. Yes. Where was it? Aligned with the pen. He frowned. I don't know. Did you enter the room fully? Yes. Did you close the door? Numbered? Did you hear anyone? Number. Pike leaned back. Miss Grant says the carpet edge was flat after your first visit. I did not place it then. We know. Vane looked confused. Then what are you asking? I said. Whether you placed it after death because you wanted it found, or whether you think you did because you want responsibility for something. His eyes shifted. That was a hit, Pike said. Mr. Vane, when you found the judge dead, where was the paper? On the desk. Where on the desk? In front of him. Under his hand. He hesitated. I think so. Could it have been blank? Number I saw writing. Did you read it? Yes. All of it? Yes. Then recite it. He stared. Recite it, Pike repeated. Vane's mouth opened, then closed. I don't remember exact. You claimed you read it, removed it, and hid it to force the truth out, Pike said. If so, you remember it. Vane covered his face with both hands. Silence did the rest. Finally he said, I saw the first line, which was, look not at the judge, and that was all. Why not the rest? The paper was partly covered. By what? His voice dropped. His hand. Pike and I looked at each other. If the judge's hand covered the message when Vane arrived after death, Vane could not have read the whole visible note. If he could not read the whole note, he could not have decided to hide it under the carpet as a complete message, unless he removed the hand, which he denied, or unless the message was already meant for that carpet, and Vane's memory had filled in guilt where facts were missing. Pike said, Did you move Judge Hale's hand? Number. Then you did not read the full note. Numbered, did you take the paper? A long pause. Number, there it was. The correction that changed the case. I leaned forward. Then why say you did? Vane looked at me with the naked misery of a man whose lies are smaller than his grief. Because I wanted to have done something, he said. No one spoke, he continued. I found him dead. I saw the line. I knew he had begun. I knew the truth was there or near, and I did nothing. Again, 12 years ago I did nothing. Last night I did nothing. When you asked about the envelope, I thought, if I had placed it, then at least I had helped. That is idiocy, I said, more gently than the word deserved. Yes, he said. Pike asked, did you touch the paper at all? Number. The letter opener. Number. The carpet. Number. You simply left. Yes. By the side entrance. Yes. Did you lock it? Yes. Pike stood. Then the envelope was hidden before you returned. Vane looked up. Before death? I asked. Pike nodded. Or by the killer immediately after. But before Vane arrived. Window. Between the last real visit and 11:20, I said. The 11:10 sighting may be false. If the judge was already dead when Mrs. Arlen saw him, then the killer had time. Yes, Vane whispered. He was dead when I came. Yes, Pike said. And I left him. Yes. Vane lowered his head. That was guilt, but not murder. Back on Riddle Street, Pike and I reconstructed the timing from the beginning. It had become necessary to separate what had happened from what people had placed on top of it. At 9:30 Rachel spoke with her father. He gave her the safe key and the instruction about Wolf. At 9:50 Jonas Merrow arrived, spoke with the judge, left at 10:10. At 10:15 Simon Thayer arrived, discussed the declaration, left at 10:20. 5 at 10:20 Colonel Rusk arrived, overlapping with Thayer, according to the old schedule, which now required correction. He left at 10:35. At 10:38 Thomas Vane entered, was dismissed at 10:50. At 10:40 Sarah Vale had been recorded leaving, but her timing overlapped with Vane's presence, according to Daniel, who now admitted he had been polishing silver in the pantry and had taken the time from the hall clock, which had stopped twice that week at 11:10. The study bell rang. Mrs. Arlen saw a figure seated at the desk, did not enter, and assumed the judge alive. At 11:20, Vane secretly returned and found Hale dead. At 7:10 the next morning, Mrs. Arlen found the body officially. At 8-something, Lila found the envelope under the carpet. The envelope had not been hidden by Vane after death. Lila's observations and Vane's collapse had removed that. So when had it been hidden? Pike stood in the study doorway, looking down at the carpet edge. The judge prepared his accusation in advance, he said. Yes, I said. But did he hide it himself? Pike shook his head. Number. Why? The position, someone outside the room could place it. The judge would have placed it inside the desk, safe, or under his blotter. This was meant to be discovered by household routine. That idea may be his, but the action may not be. Rachel, she had the key and trusted Wolf. She would not hide half a clue. Elaine, possible. Thayer, possible. Vane, now less possible. Merrow, Rusk, less likely, and Sarah Vale. Pike said nothing. We looked at the chair where Judge Hale had died. The phrase had said, "The debt walks freely." The visible note had directed us to those he judged. But if someone else placed the note, the hidden phrase could be either the judge's accusation or the placer's chosen arrow. At 6:30, I was back in Wolf's office. He was in a good mood because dinner was approaching and no client was present to spoil it. I corrected that. I gave him everything. The bell wire, Mrs. Arlen's limited sighting. Lila's statement that Vane had not placed the envelope during his visit. Vane's breakdown, his admission that he never touched the note, and the new timeline. Wolf listened. Eyes closed, fingers gently meeting at his middle. When I finished, he said, "Satisfactory. I thought you'd like it." Vane confessed to something he didn't do because he wanted moral credit, not moral credit relief. From guilt. Yes. So he didn't place the envelope, number, and the envelope was hidden after his official visit, before his secret return, or earlier, after Lila's morning cleaning. Wide window, not wide enough. Why? Because its purpose depends on Judge Hale's death. Hidden too early, it risks accidental discovery before the event. Hidden too late, it risks witnesses. So close to the death. Yes, before death. Almost certainly. By whom? Wolf opened his eyes. By someone who knew Judge Hale had prepared it and where Lila would find it. That's a small list. It should be smaller. Judge prepared his accusation in advance. Yes, but someone delivered it. Yes, hidden delivery, exactly. Who? Wolf leaned back. The person Judge Hale trusted least but used most. Thayer. Perhaps. Elaine. Perhaps. Vein. Number. No. Vein moved like memory, but the delivery required not memory. It required current authority in the household. I sat. Mrs. Arlen. Wolf made a face. Do not grab the nearest servant, then who has current authority? Mrs. Hale. Elaine, the stepmother, the widow, to be the woman with no initials in the ledger, and therefore the one I had been too willing to leave outside the old sin. But a missing initial is not innocence. Sometimes it means the hand stayed off the paper. He said, Elaine could place it in the hall. She knew Lila's routine through running the house. She knew the judge's papers. She could move freely. Yes, could she kill him? That is not yet established. But we're getting there. We are getting somewhere, Wolf said. Do not assume it is there. He reached for the latest copy of the timeline and frowned at it. Archie, tomorrow morning bring Mrs. Hale, Miss Rachel Hale, Mr. Thayer, Mr. Vane, Mrs. Sarah Vale, Mr. Pike, and the housekeeper here, all to the office. Yes, Kramer. If he insists on lumbering, this isn't the final gathering, is it? Number. Then what? A rehearsal. For whom? For the one who thinks the script is already written. I looked again at Elaine Hale's name in my notebook. No initials. No ledger entry, no obvious place in the Calverton appeal. But she had been in the house, in the marriage, in the routines, in the authority. She could deliver a message without looking like a messenger. The clerk had moved like memory, but someone else had moved like ownership. And in the Hale house, that might be the more dangerous habit. Chapter 9. The murder without mark, no wound, no blade, no bruise left behind. Rowan found the answer not in the body, but in the teacup stain. A slow, acting extract, bitter enough to notice, but too late to resist. The clerk had served tea once before, long ago, and learned patience. Revenge, like judgment, can be measured in quiet sips. At 10 the next morning, I found Rowan Pike in Judge Hale's study, not looking at the judge's chair, not looking at the safe, not even looking at the carpet that had done more talking than most of the human beings in the case. He was looking at a cup. It stood on the small table just inside the study door, the one Mrs. Arlen had used for the hot water she claimed to have brought at 11:10, a teacup, white china, thin, rimmed with a faint brown stain inside. Not much, not enough to impress a waiter, but enough to hold Pike's attention. Goodwin, he said. Pike, if that cup has confessed, I want it in writing. Not confessed. Then why stare at it? I reserve staring for women menus and people about to lie. He lifted the cup carefully with a handkerchief. This was listed as clean. It looks nearly clean. Nearly is the word that keeps murder employed. I came closer. The stain was at the bottom, no bigger than a dime, darker at the edge than the center. Tea? I asked. Yes. Judge Hale drank tea. Rarely that matters. Everything rare matters. I looked at the table. Mrs. Arlen said hot water. She said hot water, not tea. Maybe the judge added tea himself. There was no tea service on the desk. Maybe someone removed it. Pike nodded. That would matter too. I turned to the doorway. And we missed this because the cup was in the pantry when the first inventory was taken. Mrs. Arlen had sent it down with the morning tray before the police sealed the study. Daniel brought it back when I asked for every item removed from the room. Housekeepers, I said, they clean evidence by instinct. Pike looked at the stain again. The laboratory gave a preliminary report. Already? I asked loudly. You don't look like a man who asks loudly. I save it. And an alkaloid extract plant, based bitter, slow, acting in small dose, enough to disturb the heart, almost gone by the time of autopsy, masked by Hale's condition. I let that sit. So we have poison after all. Not in the glass, not in the body, not enough to prove in the cup, the murder without mark. Yes, I took out my notebook. What plant? Still uncertain. Something like foxglove, but refined crudely. A homemade extract, not a pharmacist's dose. Bitter enough to notice. Yes, too late to resist. Likely taken with strong tea. Symptoms could appear gradually: weakness, irregular heartbeat, confusion. A man seated at his desk could die without struggle. I looked at the judge's chair, the upright posture, the quiet room. No sign of violence, because violence had entered politely. In China, tea, I said. That is low. Murder often prefers domestic objects. Wolf will like that sentence. No, he won't. No, but I do. We took the cup to the pantry because rooms have memories and kitchens have witnesses. Mrs. Arlen was there, directing Daniel to polish something already shiny. Lila Grant was at the far counter folding cloths. She looked up when we entered, and I noticed again that she looked where things were. Not where rank told her to look. Pike held up the cup. This was in the judge's study last night. Mrs. Arlen's lips tightened. It was on the small table this morning. Who removed it? I did. Why? Because it was used. You previously said you brought hot water. I did, not tea. Then why was there tea in the cup? She stiffened. I cannot know everything every cup has suffered. That's almost poetic, I said. Pike did not smile. Did Judge Hale make tea for himself? Never. He disliked fuss. Who brought tea? No answer. Daniel said. Not me. That was not asked of him, which made it interesting. Pike turned. You didn't bring tea? No, sir. When were you last in the study? About 10. I cleared coffee things from the library, not the study. Did anyone ask you for tea? No, sir. Miss Grant, Lila said. I did not carry tea to the judge last night. Who did? She hesitated, but only because she was deciding whether truth required courage or merely accuracy. Mr. Vane once did, she said. That stopped the room. Once, I asked. Years ago, when he worked for Judge Hale, he used to carry tea in sometimes, if Mrs. Arlen was busy. Mrs. Arlen snapped. That was not proper service. No, Lila said, but it happened. Pike's eyes sharpened. Did he know where tea was kept? Yes. Did he know the judge took sugar? Judge Hale did not take sugar. Milk, strong tea, when working late. Yes, years ago, Mrs. Arlen said. The judge stopped taking tea at night. When? Pike asked. After his heart trouble. Who knew that? Everyone in the house, I said, not old clerks. Lila looked at me. Mr. Vane might remember the old habit and not know it had changed. Or hope it had not, Pike said. Mrs. Arlen spoke with icy control. Mr. Vane was dismissed years ago. He had no right in this pantry. Rights, I said. Are not locks, Pike asked. Was the pantry locked last night? Number tea cabinet. Number Anion could enter. Number Anion in the house could enter. Pike corrected. She did not answer. I looked at Lila. Did you see Mr. Vane near the servants' passage last night? She frowned. Number, but... When he arrived, he did not wait in the front hall as guests do. He came through the side passage after Daniel opened, as if he remembered the way. Moved like memory. I had said it before, and now it returned with better shoes, Pike said. Did he carry anything when he left? Gloves, hat, a folded paper perhaps. Paper, I'm not sure. Mrs. Arlen said, speculation is harmful. So is poison, I said. By noon I was back at West 35th Street with Pike, the report, and the teacup sealed in a box. Wolf received us in the office with no visible excitement, which is how he receives earthquakes if they have not disturbed lunch. Pike placed the report on Wolf's desk. Poison. Wolf did not touch it. In the cup. Yes. Not the glass. Number. Not enough in the body. Number slow. Acting. Yes. Bitter. Yes. Wolf closed his eyes. Then the murder was not at the moment of death. That follows, Pike said. I sat. The judge drank tea earlier, probably during or after one of the visits. Symptoms came later. By the time Mrs. Arlen answered the false or real bell, he may have been dying or already dead. Wolf opened one eye. Real or false? Still uncertain, the bell could be rung remotely, but now it may not matter. It matters, Wolf said. Everything that may not matter matters. Pike looked amused. The cup changes the window. Poison could have been served before 11:10. Yes, Wolf said. By whom? That's the question, I said. Wolf ignored me and spoke to Pike. Who had access to tea? Household staff. Family. Anyone familiar with pantry routine. Thomas Vane. Yes, years ago he served tea to the judge when he worked in the house. Wolf's eyes opened. Indeed, I said, Lila remembers it. He knew the pantry, the tea cabinet, the judge's old habit of strong tea at night. He entered last night as a visitor, but moved like someone who had once belonged to the machinery. Pike added, he also knew the carpet routine, knew the study, knew the side entrance, returned secretly, and lied from guilt. Wolf leaned back, a heavy accumulation. Enough? Pike asked. Number. I stared at him. No, we have motive, knowledge, pantry access, tea habit, and a confession to returning secretly. We have much, Wolf said. We do not have the essential fact, who persuaded Judge Hale to drink tea. That stopped me, Wolf continued. If Judge Hale had abandoned tea at night because of his heart, a visitor could not merely leave a cup and hope. He had to induce consumption. A bitter extract in tea would be noticeable. It required either strong flavor, trust, distraction, or urgency. Or old habit, I said. Old habit known to Mr. Vane, but not currently active, that weakens, not strengthens. Pike nodded slowly, unless Vane knew the judge had resumed the habit. Did he? No one answered. Wolf said, bring Mr. Vane. Pike had him brought from custody by 1:40. Vane entered Wolf's office looking less like a suspect than a man who had been wrung out and hung up wrong. His eyes found the teacup box on the desk and stayed there one heartbeat too long. Wolf saw it. Mr. Vane, he said. Sit. Vane sat. Wolf pointed to the box. Do you recognize that cup? Number, your answer was too fast. Vane closed his eyes. It is a cup. The house had dozens. Did you serve tea to Judge Hale years ago? Yes. How often? When Mrs. Arlen needed help. Not often. Did he take it strong? Yes. Without sugar or milk? Yes. Did he still take tea at night? I don't know. Did you offer him tea last night? Numbered. Did you enter the pantry? Numbered. Did you poison him? Vane looked up. Number. It was the same exhausted truth as before, or an excellent counterfeit. Wolf waited. Vane said, I hated him. I wished him dead. I thought of it. 12 years is long enough to think of many things, but I did not poison him. Did you know of a plant extract capable of disturbing the heart? Number, did your sister? The question struck. Vane's face changed. What? Ruth Vane, Wolf said. Did she have knowledge of medicinal plants? Vane stared. She worked in an office. That is not an answer. She kept herbs. He said slowly. For headaches, sleeplessness, women did. Did she use foxglove? I don't know. Did Judge Hale know? Numbered, did anyone else? Vane's hands tightened. Sarah Vale. Pike shifted. Explain, Wolf said. Sarah and Ruth were friends. Before the appeal. Before everything. Sarah knew Ruth kept remedies. I wrote that down, Hardwolf said. Mrs. Sarah Vale visited Judge Hale last night. At 10:40. Yes, she left before you returned. Yes. Did she know Judge Hale once drank strong tea at night? I don't know. She knew Ruth. Yes. Did she know you had worked in the house? Yes. Did she know Lila's routine? Number Wolf's eyes half closed. Perhaps not. Vane leaned forward. Sarah did not kill him. That assertion is emotional, Wolf said, discarded. She wanted truth. People often kill to secure a preferred version of truth. Vane's mouth closed. Pike took Vane out again, though not before Wolf made him repeat. In detail, the old tea routine: pantry shelf, blue tin, kettle kept at the rear hob, Judge's preference for bitterness, and the cup placed not on the desk, but on the small table inside the door when Hale was busy. When the door closed, I said. Well? Wolf did not answer, I said. Vane points to Sarah Vale. He points away from himself. Yes, not the same thing. Number Pike said. Sarah had motive. Her husband died after Calverton. She knew Ruth. She knew medicinal extracts. She visited late. She could have brought tea, I said, and she would understand the debt walks freely. Wolf opened his eyes. But would she stage the envelope for Lila? Pike was silent, I said. Maybe Elaine did that. We already had Elaine as hidden delivery. Perhaps, Wolf said. I frowned. 2 actors, possibly. Poisoner and message placer. Yes. Then the case splits. No, Wolf said. It converges. How? The person who placed the message knew the judge had prepared it. The person who poisoned him knew his evening habit. The person who benefited needed the statement stopped. These may be one person or several. We must determine which fact cannot be shared, Pike said. The tea, Wolf nodded. The tea is intimate. A guest may talk. A lawyer may threaten. A clerk may remember. But a man drinks tea only if he accepts it. I said, from Sarah Vale. Perhaps. From Elaine. Certainly possible. From Vane. Also possible, but less elegant than it appears. Eliminate someone, will you? Mr. Merrow and Colonel Rusk are eliminated from method. That leaves Thea, Vane, Sarah, Elaine. Yes, and Rachel. Number, you're sure? Yes, she would have called me sooner. That was Wolf's kind of character evidence. Pike stood. I'll bring Sarah Vale. Not yet, Wolf said. Pike paused. Why? Because if she is innocent, accusation will harden her. If guilty, it will warn her. Instead, find the missing tea. The tea. The source, a bitter extract, requires preparation. It must have been carried in a vial or mixed beforehand. If mixed beforehand, there will be residue in a tin, pot, spoon, cloth, or drain. Pike nodded. Pantry search. Also search Mrs. Hale's rooms. That got Pike's attention. Elaine, do not look startled. It encourages mediocrity. Pike almost smiled. And Vane. Search his belongings, but do not expect to find what was meant to be found. After Pike left, Wolf sat silently for 5 minutes. I know because I watched the clock, and because silence with Wolf can be either thought or digestion. This was thought. Finally he said, Archie, bring Miss Lila Grant here tomorrow. The maid. Yes. Why? She looks down. That's becoming a theme. It is becoming decisive. I sat at my desk. The murder without mark, poison in tea. Vane knows the old tea habit. Sarah knows herbs. Elaine knows routine. Thea knows law. The judge prepared an accusation. Someone delivered it. Someone killed him. Someone may have made Vane look like both. Yes, you have a favorite. Yes. Name. Number naturally. Wolf reached for his beer. On Riddle Street, no wound had opened, no weapon had gleamed, no poison had shouted from the blood. The answer had waited in a stain too small for certainty and too stubborn for accident. A teacup, a bitter drink. A dead judge who had prepared words in advance, and a clerk who had learned patience long ago, but perhaps had not been the only one. Chapter 10, the carpet lifted at dawn, The clerk confessed without struggle, as though finishing a sentence. The judge knew, Rowan said, and chose his witness carefully. The envelope was not for justice, it was for discovery. Lila had found what the world would have missed. On Riddle Street, truth is not hidden where no one looks, but where only one person ever does. The final gathering took place, as all proper endings must, in Nero Wolfe's office on West 35th Street. Wolfe does not attend scenes. He summons them. By 11 o'clock, they were all there. Rachel Hale, pale but composed. Elaine Hale, composed but not pale. Simon Thayer, tight around the mouth. Colonel Rusk, upright and unrepentant. Jonas Merrow, uneasy in a chair. Too refined for him. Thomas Vane, diminished, but no longer hiding. Sarah Vale, still and watchful. Rowan Pike, quiet at the back, and Lila Grant, uncertain why she had been included among such company. Inspector Kramer stood near the door, occupying space like a legal objection. Wolfe surveyed them, hands folded over his midsection. Eyes half lidded in what I have learned is his version of readiness. "Good morning," he said. "You have been brought here because the matter of Judge Hale's death is concluded." Kramer snorted. "Let's hear it, Wolfe." Wolfe ignored him. "Judge Hale," he began, "was a man of law who failed in justice. Years ago, in the Calverton appeal, he suppressed evidence. That act destroyed a man and ruined others. He knew it. He carried it. And at last, he resolved to speak." Rachel closed her eyes briefly. "He prepared a sworn declaration," Wolfe continued. "To be signed at noon on the day after his death. He prepared a ledger of names. He prepared instructions for his daughter. And, most cleverly, he prepared a message to survive him." Wolfe gestured toward Lila. "Miss Grant," he said, lifted a carpet edge as she always does. There she found an envelope. That envelope was not hidden to be lost. It was hidden to be found, by her and by no one else. Lila flushed. "The judge trusted habit," Wolfe said. "He trusted it more than he trusted any person in that house." Elaine Hale shifted. "What has this to do with the murder?" "Everything," Wolfe said. "Because the message found beneath the carpet, combined with the invisible phrase revealed by heat, was intended to identify a specific individual." Kramer said, "Get to him." Wolfe inclined his head slightly. "The phrase," he said, "the debt walks freely," referred not to money, not to favor, not to honor, but to a personal wrong unrecorded in law, a life quietly ruined. His gaze moved to Ruth Vane. Thomas Vane closed his eyes. "Yes," Wolfe said. "Your sister, she possessed evidence that might have saved Miles Calverton. You delivered that evidence to Judge Hale and removed it again. You obeyed. You were silent. Your sister died. The debt remained with you." Vane spoke quietly. "Yes. No drama, no denial, just completion." Wolfe continued. "For 12 years you carried that debt. Last night, you were summoned. Judge Hale intended to name you, to expose the past, to reopen the truth." Vane nodded. "You left," Wolfe said, "but you returned. You could not bear the silence. That much you told us, and it was true." Kramer said, "And he killed him." Wolfe turned his head slightly. "No," he said. Kramer blinked. "What?" "Mr. Vane did not kill Judge Hale." That stirred the room. Vane looked up. "I didn't," he began. "I know," Wolfe said. Pike shifted slightly, but said nothing. Wolfe continued. "Mr. Vane's guilt is real. His silence was a crime of the past. His behavior last night was cowardly and foolish, but he did not poison the tea." Kramer's voice rose. "Then who did?" Wolfe did not answer immediately. Instead, he turned to Lila. "Miss Grant," he said, "you lift the carpet every morning. You see what others step over. Yesterday you saw something else, did you not?" She hesitated. "Yes," she said softly. "What?" "The cup," she said. "Before Mrs. Arlen took it away. It was not on the table at first." That landed. Pike looked at her sharply. Explain. It was on the desk, she said. When I passed early. Then later, when Mrs. Arlen said she brought hot water, it was on the side table. Wolf nodded. Excellent. Kramer frowned. So what? Wolf turned back to the room. So the tea was not served by a servant, he said. It was already in the room, and it was moved. He looked directly at Elaine Hale. By someone who entered after it was placed. Elaine's voice was cold. This is absurd, is it? Wolf said. You had access. You had authority. You had reason to control what was seen and what was not. I had no reason to kill my husband. No, Wolf said. His declaration would expose not only the Calverton affair, but any financial or legal arrangements connected to it, including those managed during your marriage. Thayer shifted. Wolf continued. You knew of the statement. You knew of the ledger. You knew of the visitors, and you knew the house. Elaine's composure tightened. That proves nothing. No, Wolf said, but the tea does. He gestured toward the box. The poison was administered in tea. Judge Hale no longer drank tea at night, unless persuaded. Only someone he trusted could have offered it. A servant would have reported it. A guest would not have known the habit had changed, but a wife, Elaine stood. Enough. Wolf did not raise his voice. You entered the study after the others, he said. You brought tea strong, bitter, sufficient to mask the extract. You spoke with him. He drank. You left, later, you returned, rang the bell using the exposed line, and allowed Mrs. Arlen to confirm a false sighting. Silence. Even Kramer held it. Elaine's face had gone very still. You moved the cup, Wolf said. From desk to table, you maintained order. You preserved the appearance of routine, but you could not anticipate Miss Grant. Lila looked down. Wolf finished. The judge chose his witness carefully. Not his daughter, not his lawyer, not the police. A maid who lifted a carpet edge every morning. Elaine understood that choice and tried to use it, but could not control what else the maid saw. He knew she would find what others would miss. Elaine laughed once, sharply. You have no proof. Kramer stepped forward. We'll see about that. Wolf waved a hand. You have the poison, the cup, the timing, the false bell, and now the movement of the cup itself. Add to that motive, access, and opportunity. He leaned back. It will suffice. Elaine said nothing. Vane sat, unmoving, as if the weight he had carried had finally shifted, though not vanished. Sarah Vale closed her eyes. Rachel Hale looked at Wolf and said, quietly, my father knew. Yes, Wolf said. He knew enough to prepare, not enough to survive. The room emptied slowly after that. One by one, the living reclaimed their lives, diminished or improved as the case required. Lila was the last to leave. She paused at my desk. I didn't do anything, she said. You did exactly what was needed. I told her. She nodded, uncertain whether to accept that. After they were gone, Wolf leaned back, eyes closed. Well, I said, the case is complete. You enjoyed it. Moderately. That's your word for everything. It is sufficient. I looked at the empty chairs. On Riddle Street, I said, truth isn't hidden where no one looks. No, Wolf said. It's hidden where only one person ever does. Yes. He opened his eyes briefly. And that, he added, is why most people never find it.